everybody.
Welcome, welcome.
Hi, Miss Kathy. Hello. Happy New Year. Yes, we're in 2025, y'all. Right, so it's a little after 1, but we're going to let people keep coming in and we're going to get started shortly, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Is everybody okay with sound? Can you hear our lovely music? Let us know in the chat. Give us a thumbs up. Thank you, Miss Kathy. Want to make sure that everybody is hearing us. Can you guys see us? Let us know before we get started. Thank you, Miss Nicole. The thumbs up. Thanks, guys. Sound is great. Thanks. In the blustery PA in Philadelphia. Yes, it's cold here too in Georgia. It is. It is cold. We're expecting some snow maybe tomorrow. So, yep. You ready, Miss Cindy, for the snow? Yeah, I'm a Louisiana girl, so I'm not used to snow, but I'm here for it though. We don't see snow in Louisiana.
We're not that used to it in Georgia either.
Oh, sunny Honolulu, Hawaii. Oh, that sounds very nice, very pleasant. Okay, so we will get started, guys. So, like we said, thank you for joining with us today. We are so glad that you're here. Go ahead and put your name and your city and the role that you play with your organization in the chat for Nathan and myself. Just let us know who's here. That will be helpful for us to continue to foster community during this cohort. So, thank you for sharing. We have some directors. I see. Education specialists. We do have some lead teachers attending. Some instructional coaches, mentors. Oh, I see some executive directors. Awesome. We are so glad to have our leaders here. This is definitely some helpful information for you all and your support staff. Literacy specialists, glad to have you all. Few more lead teachers. right. Well, keep those coming. Appreciate to have everyone here. We are glad to have you here. We hope that this will be extremely beneficial for you, your classrooms, your sites, your staff, and of course, the children and families that we are serving. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and share the poll. So you will get a pop-up on your screen in just a little bit. There it is. And there's 4 short questions that we would like for you to respond to. This is helpful for Nathan and myself as we prepare these sessions for you all. So have you attended any of our previous ecosystem cohorts? Are you already a Cox Campus member? What best describes your role? And have you completed the ecosystem course that goes along with this cohort? Okay. Okay. So I hope you all had a chance to put your responses in, and we are going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. Okay.
All right. I am Nathan Thompson. I'm a language and literacy instructional facilitator with the Rollins Center and Cox Campus. I'm happy to be here today. Happy New Year to everybody. I just want to share that my core values are family, connection, and authenticity. I've been in this field for 25 years. I've been an educator. I worked in several years in a 2-year-old classroom, and I've worked in a 3-year-old classroom. I've been a curriculum specialist, a director, a coach, and I always consider myself an activist as well.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm Jennifer Jones. I'm also a language and literacy instructional facilitator with the Rollins Center. I have been in this field of work for 16, almost 17 years. Like Nathan, I've been in different capacities as a teacher, a mentor, a coach, a curriculum specialist, a trainer, technical assistant specialist, and now a facilitator. So my core values are family, integrity, and discipline. I am a boy mom. I have 2 boys, a high schooler and a 4th grader. So definitely enjoy this field of work. And like I said earlier, I'm from Louisiana, but I've been in Georgia for 3 years now. And I'm still adjusting, but I love Georgia. I'm enjoying my time here, and I look forward to continue to build community with you all during this year-long journey. All right, so this is the Cox Campus Way. So we have core values for Cox Campus as well, and our 5 core values are as follows. So we have rewarding. So our hope is for all of our Cox Campus members to become your best selves through the various experiences that are offered on Cox Campus. It's empowering. So we want you to know that your work is valued when you are at Cox Campus. Connecting. So Cox Campus is a shared space where all the educators from different or similar walks of life can come together and learn and grow. Safe. So it's also a safe space where you can feel welcomed and accepted and get the answers that you need to deepen your understanding and take your teaching practices to the next level. And our last core value is essential. So Cox Campus will always deliver current research and appropriate methods and practices to make sure that your experiences are always up to date and current, and you are giving children and families everything that they need to be successful. Okay, so if you are not a Cox Campus member, this is your chance to take a quick moment here and sign up by visiting our coxcampus.org website. Everything is completely free and will always be free. All you need to do is input your name, your email address, the role that you play, the organization you're affiliated with, and there are also a few other filters that you can include in your profile so that the information that you are accessing is catered to your specific needs. we did drop it in the chat, so you can access it that way as well.
All right, before we get into this, let's do an icebreaker. And this one's just kind of a fun thing. You can put it in the chat or you can unmute. Name 3 words, put together 3 words or a list of 3 words that perfectly describe this past holiday break for you. If you didn't have a lot of time off, it could just be one day or the weekend or anything you did to celebrate or spend time with family, or somebody put spend time with family. Maybe you just wanted to spend time alone. Whatever it is you did, what are the 3 words? 1, 2, 3, go. Fun, silly, wholesome. Oh, I like that. Oh, pickleball. I did that once.
Pickleball, yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Family fun, reset. Yes.
Too short.
Fast, yeah. Alone, rest, recharge.
Mm.
Yes, I took advantage of some sleep too, so I definitely feel refreshed.
What are your 3 words, Jennifer?
I would say fun, restful, and family. I was with my family most of the break, so I enjoyed that. Family
Oh,
reunion. Oh, it's always a good time. Usually people do have like a unofficial family reunion when it's like holiday time.
my 3 words are family, fun, and karaoke. We did karaoke twice, actually. Once at a party, and then once at one of those places where you get your own room and they have like strobe lights and stuff
Oh, that's cool. That sounds
off
cool.
of Buford Highway in Atlanta. It was fun. All right.
Good.
Thank you all for sharing. You can continue to share in the chat. I'm loving these words.
Yes,
All
thank you.
right. Our objectives for today are to review the 9 essential elements of an ecosystem. We'll reflect on element 4, those observations that we did. So if you were here last month, we went over element 4, and we asked that you go to a classroom or classrooms, do observations so that we can come back and share out. So if you had a chance to do that, please share when we do small groups. Element 5 is what we're going to look at after we talk about element 4 and how that went. We're going to dig into element 5. We're going to discuss the look-fors, the examples, the rating criteria for the classroom observation so that you're prepared to go and observe element 5. And then we'll practice setting goals and writing action steps. So just kind of exploring that idea. Our norms for our group here is to be open-minded and flexible to change. Make sure we step up, but also step back so others can step up. We want to be present as much as possible, respect the opinions and communication styles of ourselves and each other. Be sure to listen to understand and commit to pause and reflect throughout. And our purpose of this group is to provide support for strengthening language-centered ecosystems at a larger scale so that all children have an opportunity to be a part of an effective ecosystem that is well established in the 9 essential elements. We want to build community among a diverse group of individuals working towards positive relationships and progress in child outcomes in language and literacy development. So thank you for being here for this purpose.
All right, so the 9 ecosystem elements. So if you see here, we have a total of 9 ecosystem elements, and they are broken into 3 clusters. So we have the climate cluster, the content cluster, and the connections cluster. So I'm going to briefly describe each of the elements that fall under each of those clusters. So if you've attended our previous sessions, we went through all 3 of the climate clusters, which included safe and responsive climate, which is practices that support language learning use in the context of trusting and nurturing relationships, where all children feel safe to learn and engage with adults and peers. Second element is culturally responsive and preserving environments. So this practice promotes respect for all children and promotes diversity to know that children are valued, where they see themselves represented, and are included, and all the children learn to value others and appreciate their differences. The third element is consistent routines, rituals, and transitions. So this practices support children's socio-emotional development and preparedness to learn through consistency and predictability throughout the day. The second cluster is content cluster. So this cluster has practices and strategies that intentionally focus on promoting and developing language and literacy foundational skills. So this element, element 4, is children as conversational partners. So it focuses on supporting language use for communication, the development of oral language, development of vocabulary and comprehension, and it promotes critical thinking in conversations through your storybook, storybook and read alouds. Element 5, which is the element that we're going to be focusing on today, is integrated planning and teaching around an anchor book. So these practices create opportunities for children to extend their learning, to hear and practice vocabulary, and deepen their comprehension of concepts through storybooks and throughout the instructional day. Element 6, which is focused on emergent literacy, this one has a heavy focus on building phonological awareness, print concepts, vocabulary, and also some emergent writing skills. And the last cluster is connection clusters. So this practices focuses on the connections with individuals to assess their progress, with dual language learners to support their learning and participation, and with families to extend their learning beyond the classroom and into the home. So element 7 is where you'll have children's progress, and you'll be monitoring children's progress and finding ways to benefit their learning experiences, and also adjust and refine your teaching practices to more effectively address their learning needs. Element 8, which is intentional supports for dual language learners, this will allow all the elements to come to life for the children on ways to develop in more than one language, and or their learning experiences to be equitable for them while they're learning. And the last element, which is element 9, this is strong partnerships with families. So this is ensuring that the learning continues beyond the immediate classroom, and that families are also active co-constructors of the ecosystem, and also know what ways to enhance their child's learning at home from the support of the classroom and the teachers that support them. Okay.
All right. So, sorry, I was on mute. So what to expect? This is what we our expectations for this course. So one essential ecosystem element per month. We'll talk about why each element is important, what each element looks like, and then we'll practice those observations with each element. We'll practice it here and then have a chance to go actually do observations, and then discuss action steps as well for each element.
Okay, so this is our time for us to pause and reflect. So like Nathan said, each cohort session, we're going to focus on a particular element, but we're going to use this time to focus on the element that we should have had a chance to go back and observe. So the previous element that we were talking about was element number 4, children as conversational partners. So with that, you should have had a chance between then and now to go into your classrooms and observe. So you were looking for things that showed conversations between adults and children, were the conversations meaningful, were the teachers using themselves as rich language models for the children, encouraging them to use varied and complex vocabulary. So using that information from the ecosystem guidance document or the closer look document, you had an idea on what you needed to look for, what it should have looked and sound like in the classroom, and then you should have your notes and your ratings to come back to share with your group. So we'll take this time to pause and reflect about what you heard, what you noticed, and then share that with your group members. And then we will come back in the main group to go over your steps or your findings and what was maybe the consensus for the group. So before we do that, I want everybody to take a look at this slide here that shows the reflection questions that you'll be engaging with your group. And then also keep in mind that we will need a speaker and a note taker for each group. And so someone will come back and represent for that group, and we'll just take volunteers as we can, permitting the time. Okay. So just be on the lookout for your pop-up for your breakout room. And then when you go to your breakout room, these are the reflection questions that you want to consider with your group. Nathan and I will be bouncing from group to group just to support as needed. I hope that time was good for everyone and everyone had a chance to share their observations, their findings, and a couple of steps that they have in mind to begin working with their staff. And so if we could get maybe one or two people to share out with everyone what they discussed in their group, feel free to unmute.
In our group, we talked about, in general, doing the observations and what the difference between developing to the established looked like. And I talked about how we use Lena, which measures the frequency of serve and returns and conversational turns, but we also use a lot of the resources from Cox campus. And one of the areas that I observed a teacher struggling with was getting to use the open-ended questions versus closed-ended questions to really prompt those critical thinking skills. And a tool that Nathan shared, which we've used in the past, but it's probably been about 6 months. And I didn't know there was a talk with me fidelity form, but he shared the talk fidelity form, which I found helpful on how to get from that developing to the established piece.
Good. Thanks, Sarah, for sharing on behalf of your group. Anyone else want to share?
In our group, we kind of talked along the same lines almost, but what we were discussing was trying to get teachers out of the habit of talking at children and actually talking with children so we can get those responses from them. We often get busy or everything going on in the classroom, so we fall back to the talking at them and just getting everybody to change that mindset to talk with them.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Jill, for sharing for your group. And that's important, making sure that teachers understand the difference between talking at and talking with children. And, with them coming back from the holidays, we should have plenty of topics to talk about, plenty of things to share with children, or to find out. This is a curious time of the year. And so with holidays approaching and leaving, there's so much that you can talk about. And so please continue encouraging your staff to talk with them, take their time, plan times to sit with different groups of children and just let them lead the conversations and be listeners. And also facilitate as needed. And so there are some resources on Cox that can help you in facilitating those conversations. So definitely be on the lookout for those. And also, leave questions and comments in the chat for Nathan and I to support. And wherever we can drop some resources, we definitely will. All right, so let's keep going. All right, thank you. It's back up. So everybody should be seeing the ecosystem construction measures. So this is our implementation guide. And so we do encourage everyone that is a part of this series to download a copy of this. We will drop the link in the chat for you to have access to it. There it is. And so please take advantage of this tool. It's intended for critical self-reflection and self-growth. It supports the implementation of best practices that will lead you to those positive child outcomes that you're looking for. Specifically, this tool serves as a guide for facilitators, instructional coaches, site directors, and other center staff that assess and monitor site level development that aligns with our ecosystem essential elements. Significantly to the construction of a child's brain for reading and all learning. And so this tool is going to be very beneficial to you to get through this series. So we do encourage that once you download it, to bring it with you each time you come to the sessions, because there are some important information that we reference in the document. Okay, this is also another companion document that goes with the ecosystem construction measure. It's called Our Closer Look at the Essential Elements. And so we did drop that link also in the chat. So it describes all of the 9 elements in more detail. And it includes some examples of what those elements look and sound like. There's some video samples, and there's some opportunities for some other learning and practices. We do want to let you know that element 6, which is going to be our next element of focus, is under construction. We have some research updates that we are making. So please kind of be patient with us, but we will share the most current information that we have for element 6 as it comes. So, but I do want you all to take advantage of downloading a copy of this document as it is right now, and you will notice that there are some updates that are being made to the document. All right.
All right, so today we're going to get into element 5, which is integrated planning and teaching around an anchor book. So we talked about those conversations, but let's talk about book reads and take a look at what this looks like. All right, so what is it? This element looks at the site's efforts or the classroom's efforts to develop curricular experiences integrated around a culturally preserving, developmentally appropriate anchor book with repeated reads. So we call it that anchor book because it anchors the curriculum. In this approach, teachers plan and implement activities that connect with the selected book to extend learning throughout the day. Their focused words and story-related concepts can come alive at morning meeting, at center time, at the small groups, during transitions, providing children with multiple opportunities to continue their engagement with the story and the new content. So in addition to book characteristics such as complexity of story, plot, and developmental appropriateness, book selection is informed by children's interests, their background, culture, language, and experiences. So teachers count on families as valuable partners when considering anchor book selection. So the selection of the book is important, as well as what you do around that anchor book in the curriculum. So why does this matter? Well, when teachers make connections across the day, they support children to develop their comprehension and vocabulary, to enhance critical thinking skills, and to build world knowledge, all while creating meaningful and memorable experiences for children. The practice of planning and teaching around anchor books creates opportunities for children of all ages to connect with themselves, to connect with each other, and with their world. So as children have these opportunities to practice new vocabulary in all these meaningful ways, their ability to express themselves grows, and they can ask more questions, communicate their ideas, and advocate for themselves and others more effectively. So the selection of anchor books is so key, as children must be surrounded by books where they can see themselves, their culture, and their community represented in beautiful, uplifting, and honest ways. This positions them to take part in and transform their world. So it's so key. All right. I want to show you all what we call a bubble map. This is one way to plan around an anchor book. So we're going to look at what a classroom might look like that has planned around an anchor book, and we're going to look at a video of someone planning around an anchor book. But this is a document that we have on Cox campus, and it's called a bubble map. And this is one example using two books with the same similar theme. The two books are Everywhere Babies and Hey Baby, and this is for infants and young toddlers. This is just one example that we want to show. And I want to, as I'm talking about this, I'm actually going to share my screen and share the document itself right here, just because I can blow it up. And at the beginning of the document, it has inquiry questions. Who am I? Why do I matter? That's the theme. The focus words taken from concepts in the book and words in the book. Words are babies, friends, fingers, ears, nose, head, toes. And then a hey baby is dance, shake, move, sleepy, wake up. So it's important to know what words you want to focus on and push in and explore. And then this talks about like, what can you make changes to the environment? And that's what a bubble map is for. So there's another page that gives other connections with dual language learners, partnerships with families. But at the bottom of this is the actual bubble map. And you can see here, there are different areas. For art, we have provide children finger paint and let them play with the paint and explore their hands, because that's one of the words. Then encourage children to paint and decorate the paper. So real simple activity, but hands, fingers. For music and movement, we have sing and tap the song head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Outdoor activities, tell children a story where children will need to mimic or copy what the teacher's doing. Like, I woke up in the morning, children will make the same noise and movement. We have family connections, we have music and movement, songs that you can do, things where you can invite the family to share a list of their favorite things about a wonderful and unique baby. So you can see here that there are different activities, and then there's a couple of blank spots. And I just want to ask you real quick, if you can put in the chat, what ideas would you have to go around? I know you don't have the books right here, but you saw the words, the focus words. There's the cover at the top of here, Everywhere Babies and Hey Baby. You see the focus words here. You see some of the activities. In the chat, put an activity, just one activity that you would do around this theme, these books. Who am I? Why do I matter? For infants and young toddlers. All right, feel free to unmute or, okay, sing head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Pretend to take care of baby dolls. I like that, using accessories. A finger family. What's a finger family? Dramatic play. I want to learn what finger family is.
You know how you do where's mommy? Where you hold your hand up and then you do each
Oh,
finger.
where's
The family member.
Thumpkin?
Mommy
Yeah, I
finger.
couldn't think of. I was like family finger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
it.
I thought that's what you meant, but I wasn't sure.
Yes.
Yes, Thumpkin
Create
is,
a book.
and babies love Thumpkin. Where's Thumpkin? Yeah, they
Mm.
do.
I like that, and use family members. That's cool.
Take pictures of the babies and create a book. I love that idea, Miss Kathy. It's always fun for children to see themselves. So always take advantage of that.
Yes. All right. We'll move on to the next slide, but you all can put your thoughts in the chat. All right, here's another example. I know you can't see it very well. The picture's not super clear, but putting words up in the room. This was based on the book Wheels at Work Emergency. It's for older toddlers. So putting up those focus words and translating them into various languages, and then having like a connected activity in the classroom that might go with this or go with the book. So this is just something where you're incorporated into the classroom. When you walk in the classroom, you can see what the book is, what the focus words are, not just by the activities, but also the stuff on the wall. When I look in a classroom, I can see both. If like, let's say the finger paint was put up on the wall and it talks about fingers and hands and it has the book. So it has the focus words, it has the activity that the children did. We know, like in this classroom, you can tell what they're working on, what that anchor book is, because it's on the wall, they're doing activities around it, it's all incorporated into what they're doing. Another thing that just came to mind to me is sometimes I hear teachers reading books and they take a long time because there's so many concepts and so many words to cover in a book. So they might want to ask questions in the middle of the book and really explore, but it kind of takes a long time and they lose some of the children's attention. And so what I always advise is take those wonderful ideas that you have when you're reading the book and make your lesson plan based on that so that you can explore those concepts and explore those words and do it throughout the day and throughout the week. You're going to read this book several times. You know, focus when you do the book, focus on the book and have one question at the end. Keep it pretty simple. Even though it might be a complex book story read for preschool and pre-K, but just keep it on topic to those main ideas or those thoughts and feelings, what you're trying to get to about the book. But then all those other things that are in that book and all those concepts that are coming out, put them in the bubble map. So, and in this case, you have to read the book ahead of time. You have to plan. You have to make sure you have the book and you read it and you look at ideas for activities and so there's a lot of planning involved. So this element, the element around the anchor book is not just about reading books in the classroom and having awesome book reads, but it really goes into this, is it evident in the classroom? Are the children really getting all these activities around that? All right. I think we have a video on the next slide. Okay. All right. So let's watch this video and you'll see what book, see if you notice what book. I think she mentions it. And just what do you notice? You can put in the chat after the video. You will have a chance if anybody wants to unmute, but you can put in the chat as the video is going on. You see some things that stand out, like how is this teacher incorporating the anchor book effectively and consistently in the classroom?
Look, the little red hen and her chicks, they made bread dough. We're gonna do that today too. We're gonna make bread dough like the little red hen. The little red hen, she used some flour. She used some flour to make her dough?
Yes!
Yes.
Thank you!
And we're gonna use flour to make our dough too.
Thank you! Thank you!
Oh, you're welcome. All right, this is flour. Get your spoon and we're gonna everybody take 3 scoops. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, 3 scoops. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's okay. Good job. All right, Nora, can you take 3 scoops? 1. Well, that works. You guys can all take 3 scoops. That's fine.
Stir first. Stir.
You already have some. If you need some more, you can have some more. All right, does everybody have at least 3 scoops? All right.
I get 3 ones.
Now you're going to add some water. I'm going to use my little teapot from Sudan to give you guys some water.
3 points. Do number 2 points.
Here's some water for you. Here's some water for you. Do you want some, Habibullah? I mean, Hidayat. There you go.
What's that?
Eliana, it is cold. It is cold water. There you go. All right, pour your water in and stir it. We'll see if we can make some dough. Pour it in.
All right. So first impression, what do you notice? Okay, I see in the chat. Does anyone want to unmute and share?
Yes, I noticed that she had an anchor book, but she also used Realia to actually bring in the materials and tools to give them the experience to measure their flour and use a bowl and a little water. So just really taking them through a nice, kind of like a little simulation with that.
Yes.
Thank you for
Good
sharing.
observation, Miss Charlotte. Thank you. And I see Miss Jeanette put that they made the same food from the book onto the table. So that was another real life application. So allowing children to experience what was happening in the book into what's happening right in front of them. So I see Miss Elena, she says culturally responsive with a hands-on activity. Anybody else?
This is such a great book to do because in the book, it goes over the ingredients and the process. And so just kind of give you that cooking activity. If you're familiar with this book, what activities have you done with this? You can put in the chat if you think of, or something you would have an idea around this book. Anne said that integrating math with the story, as well as cultural aspects, while children were able to get their
And
hands on the
stir it.
material. All right, I want to look at the next slide, but keep this video in mind. Many learning domains are incorporated. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Elena. So as we're looking at this slide, I just want to point out that it does talk about, I'll explain this a little more, but let's look at 3, because we've looked at these before with different elements, and now we're looking at this. So looking at 3, do you think that this teacher was at a 3 based on what you see here? Strong evidence of integrated planning and teaching with repeated reads at the site, multiple and varied opportunities to learn concepts. Now, just assume that she's doing a lot of activities like this throughout the week as well. I mean, we can't play a 3-hour video for you about the day, but just assume that this is kind of regular practice. I would give it a 3. I'm just going to put it out there, but I don't know. Maybe if anyone has any thoughts around that, maybe you need to know more information. Is this the only thing she did and she read it once? Then maybe it's not at a 3 because we're looking at consistency. Are there any thoughts around that? Give it a 3, yeah. I think it's pretty evident that this teacher's probably has an anchor book and a curriculum around it. Well, just in case any of you are not familiar with this is from the ECM. This is the criteria. Okay, I see 2.5. Thank you, Tina. You would need to know more information about the focus words, how she integrated throughout the day. Okay, yeah, that's fair. All right, so looking at the ECM, this gives you the related Cox campus courses related to this, a description of what it is, the sources of evidence, and then those look-fors, which again, we're going to go back to what Jennifer mentioned about a closer look document. That gives you even more, and it accompanies this. But if you're looking at a classroom and you're trying to look for a 3, you might want to look at 2 first to see if it's happening at all. Because at 2, it says there's some evidence across the classroom of integrated planning and teaching around an anchor book with repeated reads at the site. There's a selected anchor book occasionally used. Some opportunities are planned for children to experience activities. If that's not happening, I'd look back at a 1. Minimal evidence across classrooms of integrated planning and teaching around an anchor book. Rare or little evidence of teacher using an anchor book for planning connected activity. Doesn't mean they're not using a book. They might read books all the time, but anchor book, connecting it to those activities. Does that even exist? Is it rare? And then activities and learning experience reflected in weekly lesson plans rarely show connection to an anchor book. Is there a book connected there at all? All right, and then if it does meet a 2 and it's some, then I'll look over to 3. Is it strong? Is it, like we said, repeated, consistent? Are there extension activities that are implemented throughout the day, not just one part of the day? Does the physical environment consistently reflect the theme of the anchor book? And then in some cases, we might see a coordinated effort across the center. And you may have seen this at sites or schools where, you know, they did, it mentions here a letter to Amy book, and there's a whole school-wide post office set up, and it's like a school-wide fun activity that happens. So that's something you might want to look for. It says in exemplary cases, so they might still get a 3 in a classroom, but if that site's really doing all this and exceptional, you know, I know we don't have a 3.5, but that exemplary would definitely put it up there. All right, let's look at the next slide.
Okay, so like Nathan just shared, these are the things that you want to take with you into that observation, or at least familiarize yourself with before you go into that observation. And so this slide here, if you go to the downloaded document that we suggested earlier, the ECM has a observation form that you can use. It's found on page 42. And so this is where you're going to document your evidence. So you're going to write what you actually see. You're going to write what you're hearing, and you're going to put it in the appropriate column. And so if there's minimal evidence of certain things, you're going to put it in the 1. If there's some evidence, you're going to put it in the 2. And if there's strong evidence, then you're going to put it in the 3. And then you're also going to rate it after all of your notes have been inputted on your observation form. And so if there's any questions about how or when to use this form, please feel free to unmute or put it in the chat for us to kind of talk about how you would use these forms, and also the previous slide that Nathan shared, which is found on page 16. We did note the pages so that you can, you know, immediately have quick access to those pages when you do go to the document. But when you leave this session, we are encouraging you to choose classrooms or a classroom to go to do your observations. And these are the 2 pages that you want to reference so that you can observe and rate element number 5 to the best of your abilities. Okay, and so we do have a practice video for you all to watch. This is going to be between 2 teachers as they are preparing to plan around an anchor book. So we want you to consider some things while you're watching this video. You're going to pay attention to what they're talking about. You're going to pay attention to what they're using, what they plan on using, and how well they are effectively planning to prepare their lesson for the upcoming week. And then we will shift you all to a breakout room so that you can discuss what you just watched in this video.
I looked at the books for our upcoming theme on cultures, and of the books on our list, this is one I really liked, My Father's Shop. It takes place in Northern Africa. I don't know if you noticed that. I think it would appeal to a lot of our families. I think there's familiar things to a lot of our families in it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a good book.
Do you think these markets are kind of similar to what you see around the Middle East also, besides
yes,
in Africa?
I think in Africa and some parts in the Middle East have this kind of shop. Yeah.
All right, we'll use this book.
Okay.
What should our focus words be?
So let's do pattern.
Okay, because the
And-
rugs have patterns.
Yes.
Okay.
And imitate.
Imitate. Oh, because everybody imitates the rooster in their own language.
Right.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. And language.
Okay.
Yeah, because you know, the rooster say hello in each language, right?
Yeah. And our children all speak different languages, so that's an important vocabulary word.
Yes.
What should we use for props?
How about a person made of paper? And,
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
And a rooster.
Okay,
Yeah, so
that's good.
we don't want many things. We don't want to bring many things to the children, just simple thing to let them understand the story.
Okay. I have some mint in my garden. You could
Yes.
bring for a prop. I
Yes.
could bring some for your class too.
Yes,
I think
please.
they could smell it and touch it. That'd be fun.
Yeah, smell it and touch it. I like that.
All right, let's
That would
think
be
of
so
some connected
fun.
activities. What Do you have any ideas for some connected activities we could do?
How about so bringing or printing many kinds of frogs all around the world and
Oh yeah, bring pictures.
bring
That'd be good.
pictures, yeah, and make rugs from this wool.
Okay. One of my students' mothers actually made rugs in Afghanistan, so
Wow.
I don't know, maybe she has pictures or she could talk about it.
Yes.
So I'll ask her.
Yes, please. How about so another activity like bringing so like pretending that there is a shop and with a person that made of paper.
Oh yeah,
and
that would
this-
be fun.
Yeah, and we can ask the families to bring things from their cultures.
Oh
and,
yeah,
yes.
that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, so that video showed you how teachers plan together, and so we are going to have you all shift to your breakouts so that you can talk about what you heard, what you noticed, and these are the format that you'll follow here. Just reflect on the video first. We do want to keep in mind that you do need a speaker and a note taker if possible for each group. And then how would you rate this particular video? And Nathan just dropped the element criteria in the chat, so if that'll be helpful to you, please click on that and have that to reference as you kind of talk about what was shared in the video. So we'll have a couple minutes to do that. Just wait for the prompt to go to your break. All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope that was plenty time for everybody to discuss and reflect on the video and justify your ratings with your group members. Okay, so at this time, we will leave a space for anybody that wants to, share out what they rated the video as, and if there's any justifications you want to share, feel free to do that at this time.
I'll go.
Thank you.
Our group, we talked about looking at element, sorry, I'm scrolling through my documents. Looking at element 2 and seeing that their planning process was really kind of culturally, like, considered a lot of the different cultural elements of what they were doing. We tended to think that they would score pretty high in some of the things as far as the planning process goes. I think, let me see what criteria were met under each area. We didn't see a lot of the other elements because, of course, it was a planning session. There were no children involved. But seeing them talk through information they've collected or know about the families, how they could incorporate that into the book, and using that anchor book to kind of weave activities surrounding that in. So a lot of what we talked about was kind of that like 2, 2.5, 3, but needing kind of some more information to feel super comfortable. I think our group is also getting to know the scoring system and kind of just wrestling with it a little bit. So we just talked through kind of what we did see and what we really liked about the things that they were sharing, the partnership between the two of them, bouncing the ideas off each other, and really having some good intentional planning for those experiences that they were looking to do.
Okay, thank you, Katie, for sharing. I do want to just clarify, because I think what I was hearing you say is that you were trying to rate it with all 9 elements, are considering all 9 elements with this video, but we are focusing specifically on element 5. So when we talked about element 5 criteria, that was the criteria we were sharing for this video. So only focusing on the planning and teaching around an anchor book. But the other elements, what we're doing is we're breaking it down one element at a time.
Mhm.
So when you mentioned that you were wrestling with the scoring system, I want you guys to just focus specifically on one element at a time. So when you do go back to your sites and you're doing your observations, we are focusing on one element at a time. So today we are discussing element 5. So that means after this session, you're going to go back and rate specifically just element 5. So after we go through the entire 9 elements, then we will encourage you all to go back and start looking at each individual element in all of your classrooms. But I think you guys said that you rated it as a 2.5. Is that what I
Yeah,
heard?
we were a little lost. I think the area, like the number 3 on the instructions where it says under each area 1, 2, 3, we were thinking like element 1, 2, 3. I don't know what
Oh,
that's
no,
what I
no.
was thinking. Do you see what I'm saying? And we also had a moment where we didn't pull up, we needed to pull up the thing. So we were looking at it a little differently, but there was good conversation about what we did see, and kind of that. I think we just got a little lost in the sauce, but
Okay. Well,
got
I
it.
appreciate your transparency, your honesty. I appreciate that. And it's okay. And so this is why we do encourage you all to, share your experiences with each other and also speak up so that Nathan and I can best support you all. And so if you are, having some confusion or anything about any of the information that we share in this, please always feel comfortable to let us know. So thanks for sharing. Appreciate it, guys. And we are going to keep going. Okay, so here, this is the 3-step process that we have in the ecosystem construction measure. So we encourage you to observe, gather that information, take your notes, use the observation forms in the document. And then after you have done your observations, we encourage you to reflect on those observations. So you're not going to jump right into taking action and, this is what you need to do. We want you to reflect, take some time and think about, what did you just see? What did you just notice? What are you hearing in the classroom? And then start identifying what are some priority areas that you want to focus on. So, it may not be 2 or 3 elements at a time. It may just be one element at a time that you want to focus on site-wise. So I want all of my classrooms to work on element 5 at the same time, or I want all of my classrooms to work on, 2 elements at a time. Whatever the case is, you guys want to prioritize whatever that is, and then set goals. And then lastly, then you want to start taking action. So this is where you're going to develop an action plan with some identifying steps and resources and deciding on who's responsible for what, and setting some timelines so that you can achieve those goals in a timely manner. So this is a 3-step process we encourage you to use. In the ecosystem construction measure document, it goes a little bit more into detail on how to do each of those steps. So please take the time and review that information prior to you developing your plans. Okay, so here, this slide shows you some of those action steps that you can indicate on your teacher's plans. So you can encourage staff to take Cox Campus courses that are related to that element that you want to improve on. And in the ecosystem construction measure document, under each of those elements that Nathan described, there are some courses that are already attached to the element. So you don't have to guess on which course I need to give my teachers to take. It's already spelled out. Another one is to share a Cox Campus resource. So once you create those Cox Campus accounts, then you have full access to all of the free resources. So you can, direct your teachers to go to Cox, pull up resources that are specific to, whichever element that you're developing. Another idea is to implement specific teaching practices. So there are certain practices or strategies on Cox campus that will support this element. Another one is developing some common planning time. So if you don't already have designated time for your teachers to get together or spend some time, creating their plans or revising some of their areas in their classrooms, whatever it is, develop some time, cut off some time where you can, at this time, I'm going to make sure all of my staff have protected time so that they can devote this time to planning. And then another idea would be some self-reflection. Maybe you want your staff to observe themselves in their classrooms or observe a colleague. So if you have laptops, tablets, a camera, if you have access to any of these devices where teachers can record themselves or record a colleague as they are, working on a specific teaching strategy or a small group or a whole group activity, whatever it is that you want your staff to be able to grow in, then, you have that on video that you can go back and watch and provide feedback and support them wherever they are.
And I just want to note that I'm putting in the chat fidelity forms for tips and start reads. So tips are infant toddler, start or preschool pre-K reads. And we can talk more about it next month. But since we talked about the fidelity in one of my groups today around talk with me, there are fidelity forms for those reads. And it's not going to give you all the criteria for how they're planning and implementing and having a curriculum around Anchor Book, but it will help with how they're planning the book itself and using the words and questions and doing an effective read. So that's one plan or step you can take to use those fidelity forms. It does actually talk about extension activities in there as well, now that I think about it. All right, so to review our objectives from today, we did the ecosystem review. We did those element 4 reflections. Thank you very much for taking the time to do that. And we went into element 5, the integrated teaching and planning around an Anchor Book, and explored that so that we'll be ready for next month. What are our next steps? Next steps are we're going to complete or review the course if we haven't yet taken it, or you can go back and review it, the ecosystem course. Review that ECM 2.0 document and a closer look document. Observe classroom or classrooms and rate that element 5 around an Anchor Book. Check your email for follow-up and then join us again on February 13th and make sure you share out so we get other leaders involved. Thank you all so much for being here. Any questions as we're wrapping up? Oh, and we do have a survey.
Yes.
So this is our closing out survey. We love, we use your feedback to grow and to learn. And so we really appreciate if you can take this poll. It's going to pop up on your screen. All right. Thank you all so much.
Guys.
Remember, you can join us again, look at our events, and then this was recorded, so you'll be able to access the recording. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now.
When you say there's a recording that we can access, where are those recordings? Like, where can we find them again later? Like, where do we find them?
Okay, I can show you that too, I think. Let me see.
Because I've seen the ones on YouTube, but like they're not the recordings of this like live one. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
It'll
And
be
Nathan,
on
can you do
Cox.
me a favor?
Yes.
Can you do me a favor before we pivot into the recordings? We want to first answer the first question, which is the
I got it.
ecosystem course, and then let's pivot to the past events.
That works. And thank you all for your patience and thank you for your questions. So in the main page here, you can go to My Learning at the top and go down to Courses. And then go to Education right here under the word Courses. Click Education, and you can click Infants and Toddlers or Preschool and Pre-K. And it should be one of these here. I'm going to scroll till I see the word ecosystem. There it is, an ecosystem approach to developing the foundation for reading in the early years. So that would be that's the easiest path to get to it, but you can search it as well up here in the search box. Is that
Yes.
helpful,
This is
Charlotte?
the course. Yep, this is the course that's attached to this year-long journey. We encourage, so every time we reference the course, that is the course we are talking about. And so we do encourage everyone that is participating in this series to take this course because it's helpful to all of the content and the terms that we're using during this series.
And I think I'll share my screen for the reference to the past events because there's two
Okay.
areas. Okay.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. Hopefully everyone can see my screen from here. But when looking for year-long journey sessions, there's two ways that you can go and find the sessions that have been pre-recorded. First, if you go into the Engage tab here, click year-long journey. If you scroll down, you will be able to find the early learning pre-K leaders, and you can watch the replay from this screen. So it targets each individual one here. After each session, we update this page and upload the video from each session. Also, too, if you're looking for the entire playlist, if you go to events, so underneath the About tab, go to events, past events, and scroll down just a little bit, you can see all the year-long journeys here, and it'll take you to each cohort's playlist. So depending on which one you want to look at, for instance, the one that we're in right now, if we want to watch all the videos, we can just click here, and you can see the videos that are available for this cohort. And so we'll go ahead and add the next one once we conclude and edit and everything, it'll be uploaded here.
Thank you
And
so
then-
much. That's very helpful.
Okay, no problem.
Thanks for
welcome.
your question. Does anybody have any other questions before we end? We appreciate all of your patience and your participation. And we hope to see you guys next month.
Thanks, everyone.